What's up guys, Todd here. And in today's video, we're covering schema markup, also known as structured data. And this is the second time I've tried shooting this video because the first time I swallowed a bug. And let's dive in. Now, schema markup is basically a summary of all of the pertinent information about your website. So if there's an organization behind it, what brand is behind it, if you're publishing articles, who published it, when was it published, if there are comments, if you're selling a product, what is the name of your product, if there are any kind of imagery, how much is it going for, what is the return policy like. And then with that summary, it's making it more digestible so that Google, Bing, Yandex, other search engines understand a little bit more about the page so that when a user is typing in a relevant query, they can provide your page to that user on a one-to-one ratio, or at least in theory, that's what it's supposed to do. So let's just dive in and take a look at a couple of different examples, and we'll work through why it's really beneficial to add it to your page. So let's start with the first example. It's one of my favorite films, The Exorcist. Now, looking at the SERP, we can see Wikipedia is dominating at the top. They have really great site links. We have a people also ask. We have this knowledge panel over here to the side with all of these really great images. We have some more information. But what we're actually going to be taking a look at is IMDb. We have the favicon, or favicon, we have the meta title, the meta description, and then we have this really cool information here. We have a 4 out of 5 star rating and a rating of an 8.1 out of 10 based on over 400,000 reviews. Now, where does that information come from? If you're new to this, you probably don't know, but that's actually structured data at work. So let's copy a link to this and let's put it in the schema markup validator. And let's see what kind of structured data that they're working with here in order to generate that on the SERP. Now guys, keep in mind, just because you add structured data to your website doesn't necessarily mean it's going to appear on the SERP, but it does improve your odds versus not having it there at all. So they're using the movie type, which we can see up here. Here's the URL, here's the name, the image. But then when we get down here, this is actually what's appearing on the SERP. We have our reviews and we have the date that the review was created, what language it's in, the name of the review, the actual review body, the item that's being reviewed. And then down here, we can see that if we look at the SERP again, although it's 4 out of 5 stars, their review system actually goes from 1 to 10. 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. So this is where the aggregate ratings come from with the rating count of over 400,000. So you can start to see where all of this is being populated from the structured data. Now, we don't see a video element appearing for IMDb. On here, it's all pointing to Universal Pictures and Warner Bros., which is fine. But they do have the video object element on their structured data, which is really great for them. So that's one example. And if you happen to have information about movies, this would be a great one to copy. Now, let's take a look at one of the top stories from here. And let's see what kind of structured data they're running. Now, just because you add this type of structured data doesn't actually mean you're going to appear in the news feed or the top stories feed. That's a separate process, and it's actually quite difficult to get into, but that's a different video for a different time. So they are using the organization schema, and the one that we're interested in is the news article. So you can see here the name, The Hollywood Reporter, the headline, we have our date published, we have our date modified, we have some more information about the article body, and then we have a little bit more information about the author and the publisher. So we have all of this, again, a nice, easy to read summary that we're supplying to Google, to Bing, to Yahoo, to other search engines. and we're telling them, sorry, I was distracted. You like code, eh? I do. I like that. So we're supplying them with this summary card, basically, and we're telling them enough information they need to kind of populate the SERP with our page. At least that's what the hope is. So that's our second example, and it's a fun one. And it's also a very typical one. If you run a blog, instead of using news article, what you'll typically see is blog posting. And they're very, very similar. So instead of just using the @type news article, you would use @type blog posting. All right, guys. So let's jump into our next example. And this is going to be product schema. So we're going to be taking a look at this Estee Lauder Perfectly Clean Multi-Action Foam Cleanser, which is a mouthful. So we have our meta title here. We have our meta description. And then what's really cool is they have all of this structured data that's being populated on the SERP. We have our 4.5 star rating. That's actually 4.6 based on 1,600 reviews. So if I'm seeing this, I'm clicking on it because it's a lot of reviews saying this is a great product. It's $30. So I get that information right up front. It's free 3 to 7 day delivery and a 60-day returns. And I know it's in stock. So I'm clicking on it. But let's take a look at what the SERP validator says. Sorry, schema validator says. So we have, again, all of our relevant information at the top, the name, image, description. And then this is where we get into what's actually being populated on the SERP. We have our aggregate rating of 4.6 based on 1,600 reviews. We have our offer here. So this is what's controlling the pricing tag. The US dollar, $30. And then, so it's not actually being generated within their schema markup, but Google is parsing the data and they are pulling out the relevant information about the returns policy. So the free 3 to 7 day delivery and the 60-day returns. I would actually recommend to Estee Lauder, if they were a client, to add the merchant return policy schema type to the product. That way you can just provide Google that information instead of hoping that Google kind of parses it on its own, because some days it will, some days it won't. So that's a really cool example. And just look at it. Look how much SERP real estate it takes up. Let's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines versus this one it's great, but it's missing the color. It's missing these other bullet points here. So, and it doesn't even include the image. So this one was a really fun one to take a look at. Now, let's take a look at carrot cake. Love-hate relationship with carrot cake. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes it's really dry. Let's run a new test and let's copy this link and fetch a URL. Now, while that's running, again, we have our meta title, our meta description, and we have our reviews. Now the reviews, again, they're functioning in a very similar way, but this is going to be for a recipe versus what we saw before with a product or with a movie. So we have 5 stars nearly, 4.9 based on 1,400 reviews. And what's cool is this is telling us how long it's going to take us in the kitchen. An hour and 5 minutes, which is really great because I don't want to spend 5 hours trying to make a carrot cake, which, you know, knowing me, it's not going to turn out well anyway. And then we also have these site links here, which I'm going to go off on a limb and say Google is just populating that based off of internal links that it's finding on the page. So on the right here with schema.org's validator, it says the URL could not be rendered. Some markup may be missing. Given that there are 7 items within the web page, it looks like they either have a duplicate or they just have some kind of coding issue going on. If they're using a plugin, generally these types of sites are built on WordPress, so it's probably a plugin conflict where they're generating the same web page schema over and over and over again, which is causing that issue to occur. So the cool thing about validating this and auditing it is you can fix it. But let's jump into the recipe anyway. So we have our recipe type. We have our image, which really they should reformat this as WebP, but that's, again, a different video. We have our date published, our date modified, our description. And then we get down to all of this really great information that they're providing Google. So it's taking all of the guesswork out of Google, because Google can crawl all of this information on its own, but it may not understand all of it without you actually marking up all of this with tags. So let's see. They're saying that the prep time is only 20 minutes. Well, again, Google may be able to crawl that and understand it, but with these tags, it's definitely going to understand it. We have our cook time, and then we have our total time, which we see directly right here on the SERP, 1 hour, 5 minutes. So this is really great work at hand. We have our recipe category, and then we have other things like recipe ingredients, our recipe instructions. So these are broken down into individual blocks. So in case you were just looking up carrot cake instructions or something along those lines, sometimes you'll see the featured snippet at the top and you'll see like a bullet point list of instructions. That's the benefit of structured data. Google may populate that with their recipe instructions schema. So all of this information is really relevant and really great stuff. We have our author down here, and then we have our nutrition. So who knows, maybe you're looking up what is the nutritional value of carrot cake. They may also appear for that SERP result. So a lot of great stuff at work here. We also have our video object. They have an embedded URL directly on the page pointing to YouTube. This is good. I don't actually see a video pack on the page, which is unfortunate for them, because that would be great. Chances are they would rank there, but they are doing their due diligence and they are publishing that information. So in case Google wants to add a video pack, it would already have all of that information and they can quickly parse it. So, and then jumping down here, we have our reviews, which we see here, we have 5 stars based on 1,400 reviews. And then we have the individual reviews down here. So all in all, this was a really strong effort, despite the fact that their web page schema was messed up. Now, lastly, we are going to take a look at another one. This is going to be an article for the query Best National Parks in USA list. I didn't choose USA News Travel just because I knew that they had really great structured data, and because with the bigger websites, they have a domineering presence about them anyway, so they will appear in the SERP regardless of whether they have structured data. So I just selected these guys, more than just parks, and they have these anchor links here to the list of the 10 best US, I'm assuming national parks, 10 best national parks, and I don't know, something else. So we have their URL here, and let's take a look at what the validator is showing. And for these guys, I actually also ran a rich results test, which is another free test that you can use that Google produced. It's really interesting because this one will actually tell you which structured datas are supported by Google and what they look like on the SERP when they are supported. And it's also cool because sometimes the schema.org validator will show that you have no errors or issues, but Google's definition of an error and issue is different. So it's always a good idea to check both of them, and you can kind of go through here and see that they have articles, breadcrumbs, FAQs, and then the site link search box. All of that has been validated for Google, and it is currently working without any kind of issues. So I recommend playing around with this one as well, in addition to the validator found on Schema Markup. So let's jump in. This is pretty interesting. They are using a whole bunch of keywords. Now, this is typically something you don't see I would actually recommend they don't use this because this is the wrong application of it. This, in my eyes, looks like keyword stuffing, whereas keyword is generally supposed to be representative of what the string is about rather than, just supplying it with a whole list of keywords that you would like to rank for. So I would, if I was them, I would remove that. But it's for a different video. So we have all of this information. We have our date published. We have our date modified, which again is really cool because if this is something that changes, whenever they add a national park and they want to they want to update their list, they can update their date modified and tell Google, hey, we've updated this. They'll drop it into Google Search Console and reprioritize their crawl, and they may appear higher up on the SERP. We have our description. We have all of this other pertinent information about the organization, the website, their logo, all of the images. So they may appear in the image pack. As we can see here on the SERP, they do. It looks like they may be selling a book on, or I don't know, maybe that's just a collage image. They have their breadcrumbs. So all of this is really good stuff outside of the keywords. They have their FAQs, they have their persons, website. So now this is interesting because they have a whole bunch of duplicate schema. Now, duplicate schema isn't necessarily an issue, but I would dedupe it. I wouldn't necessarily leave it. We've seen same as already twice now. And let's see if we see it in here again. I'm not seeing it. So maybe they just use it twice. But they have FAQs being duplicated twice. We've seen it higher up on the list, and we've now also seen it down here. We've seen organization twice on this. Actually, now this is the third time we've seen organization and the third time that we've seen same as for all of their social links. So this to me seems like they have a plugin. Yeah, they're using Yoast. So chances are they're on WordPress. I don't think Yoast actually is anything other than a WordPress plugin. So they probably have a plugin issue where it's just duplicating all of this information. And again, this is a benefit of auditing your structured data and kind of cleaning this up. Oh man, here it is again. So this is 4 times for the exact same structured data. So yeah, they really need to go through. And you know how they would find that out? By watching my video on how to audit Schema Markup, which I will include a link to, and I'll also include a title card. But guys, that's everything on how to learn more about structured data. This was I guess, kind of an in-depth introduction to structured data, also known as Schema Markup. If you have any questions on anything that we've covered or anything that we didn't cover, just let me know in the comments below. I'd be happy to help you out. I've also created a video on how to generate structured data with ChatGPT. It's a pretty easy process. I'll include a link to that video as well. I'll also include a link to my website, which I have a whole bunch of free tools if you want to play around with those. And I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like and subscribe and give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like the video, give it a thumbs up anyway. I'd really appreciate it. And until next time, this is Todd, and see you.